Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest. We should first offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan. To Narayan, Rishi, the Supremost Human Being. Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning. To Srila Vyasadeva, the author. And to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane. Nirvisesha Sanyavari Pastita Desara. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Gadadha Shivasari Kaura. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, we're moving along. We've achieved the 20th verse of the 3rd chapter of the 2nd canto entitled Pure Devotional Service. Just in case anyone has missed the last week, the previous verse was, men who are like dogs, hogs, camels and asses, praise these men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna, the deliverer of all evils. And today we have a new verse. So please repeat. Bile, Bhaktoru Krama, Vikraman, Ye, Bile, Bhakturu Krama, Vikraman, Ye, Na, Shunvata, Karna, Pute, Nalasha, Na Shunvata, Karna, Pute, Nalasha. Jiva Shati, Darduri Keva, Sutta, Jiva Shati, Darduri Keva, Sutta, Nachopa Gayati, Urukaya Gata Nachopa Gayati Urugaya Gata Bile Bhakturu Krama Vikramanje Bile Bhakturu Krama Vikramanje Na Shunvata Karna Pute Narasha Jivashati Dardu Rikshavet Seva I'm sorry Jivavati Dardu Keva Sutta
Jivashati
Dardu Keva Sutta.
One more?
Yeah, I can see. Okay. Nachopagati urukaya gata. Nachopagati urukaya gata. Bile bhaturu krama vikramanje. Nasinvata karna pute narasha.
Nasinvata karna pute narasha.
Jivashati Darduri Keva Sutta.
Jivashati Sutta.
Nachopagayati Urukaya Gata.
Nachopagayati.
So, someone else like to chant? Anyone?
What's that second word, Prabhu? Bhaturu
Krama. Bhato Krama. Bato Urukrama.
Bile Batura Karma Vikramaya.
Bile Bato Urukrama Vikramanje.
Nasavayate Kana Pute Nasara. Devasati Duratu Devasuta. Nacho Aparayati Gataha.
Vile Batoru Krama Vikramanye.
Vile Bato Urukrama Vikramanje.
Ashwin Vata Karna Pute Narasya.
Nashivata Kanamute Narasha.
Jivasati Dardurike Vasuta.
Devasati Dardurike Devasuta.
Nacho Pagayati Urugaya Gata.
Nacho Bhagayati
Gayagata.
Vile Baturo Promo Vikramanye.
Vile Bato Urukrama Vikramanje.
Vata Karna Pute Narasya.
Nashetatana Anagudesha.
Vivasati Dardurike Vasuta.
Vivasati Dardurike Vasuta.
Chopagayatya Urugaya Gataha.
Nacho Agaya Gaya Gata.
Vile Batoru Krama Vikramanye.
Vile Bato Urukrama Vikramanje.
Tasmin Vata Karna Pute Narasya.
Nishavate Kama Bhuta Narasa.
Shivashati Dardurike Vashuva.
Vivasati Durdurike Vasuta.
Nacho Pagayati Urugaya Gataha.
Nacho Agaya Gaya Gata. Okay, so the word is belay,
Belay.
snake hole,
Snake hole.
bata,
Rata.
like,
Like.
Urukrama,
Arupama.
the Lord,
The Lord.
who acts marvelously.
Who acts marvelously.
Vikraman,
Vikrama.
crowds,
Power.
yea,
Yea.
All these.
All these.
na,
Na.
never,
Never.
Trinvata,
Vindata.
heard,
Heard.
Karnapute,
Karnabhute.
the ear holes,
The ear hole.
Narasha,
Narasha.
of the men,
Of the men.
Jiva,
Eva.
the tongue,
Tongue.
Asati,
Asati.
useless,
Useless.
Dardurika,
Dardurika.
of the frogs,
Of the frogs.
Eva,
Eva.
exactly like,
Exactly like that.
Sutta,
Sutta.
oh, Sutta Goswami,
Oh, Sutta Goswami.
Na,
Na.
never,
Never.
Cha,
Cha.
also,
Also.
Upagayati,
Upagayati.
chants loudly,
Chant loudly.
Urukraya,
Agudaya.
worth singing,
Worth singing.
Gata,
Gataha.
songs.
Song.
The translation is, one who has listened to the messages about the prowess and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead and has not sung or chanted loudly the worthy songs about the Lord is to be considered to possess ear holes like the holes of snakes and a tongue like the tongue of a frog. Please repeat after me. One who has not listened
One who has not listened
to the messages
to the messages
about the prowess and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead,
about the powers and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead,
and has not sung
and has not sung
or chanted loudly
or chanted loudly
the worthy songs
the worthy songs
about the Lord,
about the Lord,
is to be considered
is to be considered
to possess ear holes
to possess ear holes
like the holes of snakes,
like the holes of snakes,
and a tongue
and a tongue
like the tongue of a frog.
like the tongue of a frog.
So the purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Devotional service to the Lord is rendered but all limbs or parts of the body. It is the transcendental dynamic force of the spirit soul. Therefore, a devotee is engaged 100% in the service of the Lord. One can engage in devotional service when the senses of the body are purified in relation with the Lord. And one can render service to the Lord with the help of all senses. As such, the senses and the action of the senses are to be considered impure or materialistic as long as they are employed only in sense gratification. The purified senses are engaged not in sense gratification, but in the service of the Lord in toto. The Lord is the supreme with all senses, and the servitor, who is part and parcel of the Lord, also has the same senses. Service to the Lord is the completely purified use of the senses, as prescribed in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord imparted instructions with full senses, and Arjuna received them with full senses, and thus there was a perfect exchange of sensible and logical understanding between the master and the disciple. Spiritual understanding is nothing like an electric charge from the master to the disciple, as foolishly claimed by some propaganda mongers. Everything is full in sense and logic. The exchange of views between the master and disciple is possible only when the reception is submissive and real. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one should receive the teaching of Lord Chaitanya with intellect and full senses, so that one can logically understand the great mission. In the impure state of a living being, the various senses are fully engaged in mundane affairs. If the ear is not engaged in the service of the Lord by hearing about Him from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, certainly the holes of the ear will be filled with some rubbish. Therefore, the messages of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam should be preached all over the world very loudly. That is the duty of a pure devotee who has actually heard about them from the perfect sources. And Prabhu, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhu said, pretty impressive, the Brihat Madanga, the big Madanga, because it can be heard all over, because wherever the books go, people are hearing it. So Prabhupada did this all over the world. He established book distribution everywhere. Many want to speak something to others, but because they are not trained to speak on the subject matter of Vedic wisdom, they are all speaking nonsense. And I just saw something on the internet. I didn't click on it. For some reason it popped up and said, learn how to reach the state of no mind.
Mindless.
No mind. I mean, it was like, it was almost like, that wasn't exact, but it was, but I think there was something right after no mind. The state of no mind or something. So I was sort of curious just to see what exactly, I mean, it was really like, trying to be very blissful. And he says, the state of no mind, the keys. What? No, mindless. There are hundreds and thousands of sources for distributing mundane news of the world, and people of the world are also receiving it. Similarly, the people of the world should be taught to hear the transcendental topics of the Lord, and the devotee of the Lord must speak loudly so that they can hear. The frogs loudly croak, with the result that they invite the snakes to eat them. The human tongue is especially given for chanting the Vedic hymns. The human tongue is especially given for chanting the Vedic hymns, and not for croaking like frogs. The word asati, used in this verse, is also significant. Asati means a woman who has become a prostitute. A prostitute has no reputation for good womanly qualities. Similarly, the tongue, which is given to the human being for chanting the Vedic hymns will be considered a prostitute when engaged in chanting some mundane nonsense. So the verse again is, one who has not listened to the messages about the prowess and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead, and has not sung or chanted loudly the worthy songs about the Lord, is to be considered to possess ear holes like the holes of snakes, a tongue like the tongue of a frog. Excuse me. So the deities look absolutely beautiful again today. My compliments to the pujaris. So it's very stressful. I watch them. It's a lot of stress. A lot of thought goes into it. A lot of devotion. And everything, the garlands have to be made. Everything has to be done. Everything has to be cleaned. And it takes a team. So, Prabhupada says here, I heard a class that he gave in 1972 on this verse, and I had it practically memorized. But this morning I had some other realizations. But he starts by saying Urukrama. Urukrama means the activities, the very chivalrous, brave, wonderful acts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They have no knowledge of who God is, or if there is a God. We have the scientists on one side saying there's no God, or if there is a God, he's absentee. He's an absentee landlord. He's bored. He's gone off. Maybe he died. But that's like every day you receive at your door. There's a basket with all the fruits and vegetables, all the clothing, the fluids you need, everything that you need for the day is provided like a cornucopia at your door, and you don't even think, well, who was so nice to bring this to me? You just take it and there's nobody giving this to me. It's just, this is here. It's mine. Without ever considering that maybe someone is providing you something. No, it's not. It's just happening by chance. It's supposed to happen this way. So, and then you have on the other side, with some of the other religions, they're very limited in their knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I was thinking about this this morning, while chanting my rounds, that it came to me that, like the Muslims, they have some, they're not even allowed to see a picture of Muhammad. And Allah means God. And then they're only, I'm sure there's some description of what the heaven is that they're going to. I know I've heard, I don't know if it's true, but if you are successful in your jihad, which is really not meaning blowing yourself up, it means like a spiritual pilgrimage or fight against the sins of this world, you get to have 72 virgins. I don't know what the women get, but the men get 72 virgins. But in Christianity, we know there's the Father, but we really don't have a lot of descriptions. I mean, I think Jesus Christ, or in the Bible it's stated that my Father has houses, many mansions, something like this. But we don't know His name. And many times you hear people say, well, why, if Jesus Christ is a Son of God and Krishna is God, why didn't he mention His name? But it dawned on me this morning that was in Dwapara Yuga, so Lord Chaitanya hadn't come yet. And in Judaism, even to this day, only the purest rabbi is allowed to utter the name of God. It's too pure, and only a qualified rabbi can say that name. And that sounds an awful lot like what Lord Chaitanya was going through with the caste Brahmins. They criticized and went to the Chand Kazi because Lord Chaitanya was chanting the holy name, and they said, by doing this, the potency of the mantra will be lost. So it's very similar to what we know that is in Judaism. So Jesus Christ, he was a Jew. He couldn't be speaking like that. So, let's wait till they're finished.
It's just that she's doing some savor that she doesn't understand and trying to explain to the people outside.
Thank you. So,
TV brings you 100 plus channels.
Out you go. You again.
that phone now belongs to me.
Right.
Drop it in the pot.
So, anyway, I must be onto something because.
Something's trying to stop.
So,
Keep going.
you when you're in Christianity, you don't really know what is the afterlife, who is God, what is His name. And when I heard that there was a name for the Father, I heard this Jewish rabbi speaking about it. I really wanted to find out His name, and then fortunately, Srila Prabhupada came and gave us the name of the Lord, Krishna, and many other, Mukunda, Murari, Gauranga, Chaitanya, Ranjana, Gokula, Ranjana, Gokula Nanda. So many different names of Krishna, of God. So, and there is some, I saw a list once on a poster that had like maybe 50 or 100 names, like the Alpha and the Omega, the Creator, the beginning and the end, so things like that, descriptions like that of the Father. But you have nothing to look forward to, whereas we know that Krishna, like when we are all born, we're born naked. Prabhupada actually, the way he said it, Prabhupada would say, you are born naked, and you die naked. You leave naked. You come with nothing, and you leave with nothing. But when Krishna came, he appeared in the cell of Vasudeva and Devaki, and he had the lotus and the conch and the Sudarshan chakra and the club in his hands. He had his crown and all his jewels and flower garlands. He came fully dressed, and then they just, and he was flashing his effulgence around the room, around the cell, and then they begged him, please just appear as an infant child, because you may draw attention, and somebody come and there'll be trouble. So, not that would be a problem for Krishna, but we know that Krishna, his birth is not like our birth. And we know that Krishna at the age of 7, he lifted a hill, Govardhan Hill, with his pinky for a week to protect the residents of Vrindavan. And they had hundreds of thousands of cows. It was a very prosperous village. And Krishna was just very casually lifting the hill for 7 days, protecting from this tremendous onslaught of rain brought about by Indra. And Krishna, he's a very great man. He married 16,000 wives. I had one wife and she left me. And now I have a wife who tolerates me. So to have 16,000 wives, and every single one of them was happy. Every single one of them had their own palace. And Krishna wasn't just like a carbon copy of himself. When Narada Muni went to each palace, he was playing with the children in one palace. In another place he was playing chess with Uddhava and one of his wives. And in another place he was riding elephants. Another one he was training horses. Here in another one he was reclining and his wife was massaging his feet. Another place he was taking his meal. He was being bathed and massaged. So every place, every palace, there was different activities going on. and each wife was satisfied. Now we know that Jesus Christ was able to walk on water. Look, and so that's considered, and that's one of the mystic powers, to be lighter than the lightest, to be able to levitate. But Lord Ramachandra was able to float huge boulders and build a bridge from the tip of India over to Sri Lanka. And we know that Lord Jesus Christ fed a multitude of people with a few loaves of bread and a few fish. Lord Chaitanya, when he was out on his first public Harinam, and everyone became tired and fatigued, he took one seed of a mango, planted it in the ground, and within a few moments, a tree, a full-grown mango tree, producing the most delectable mangoes, no seed, no skin, unlimitedly, for at least a year it continued to produce. So these are the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so it's not that I am saying that Christianity or any other religion, what they have is, to be laughed at. That's not the point. The point is that it's like ABC. And now you get to hear the activities of the Father, the Creator. And His activities are wonderful. As a matter of fact, they're marvelous. They're urukuna. They're, amazing. The actual word was, I think, marvelous in the word for word. And these are the messages that the world needs to hear. Right now in this room, there's radio waves, TV waves, the internet, the cyber world. We're being constantly inundated with all these different sound vibrations. If we had a radio, we could turn it on and we could get an AM frequency, we could get an FM frequency, we can get different frequencies. And if you had a television with a direct, a satellite or a cable, you could connect to all those stations all over the world. And so much information is being spread all over the world, but it's all, as Prabhupada said, rubbish. It's not bringing anyone closer to the final solution of this transmigration of the soul within the material world, which is to reconnect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that this time when we die, we do not take another material body. We are reinstated in our pure state. We are spiritual energy. We are not these material bodies. This body is a vehicle for us. And in this particular body, we have the sense that we can understand there's something more than just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. As we were just talking about with the various animals. Not to live just like the animals live. They're enjoying their eating. I mean, Indra enjoyed what he ate as a hog. And he had heavenly, celestial, ambrosial dishes being made for him in heaven. But he was enjoying his eating as a hog just as much. The dog enjoys his sex just as much as a human being does. The camel. Prabhupada said that the camels, that in their previous life, they were like the governors, the British governors. They used to walk, like if you ever seen a camel, the way it walks, it's very, like their head is out like this. And the British would stand and walk like this. Like everything above them, down below them. And so, all of these different animals, they experience they experience the same pleasures that the human being is no different. The type of pleasure that you experience as an animal is the same pleasure that you can experience as a human being. You can only eat so much. Doesn't matter how much money you have. Madly going after more and more and more, you can still only eat 2 to 4 chapatis. you still only take up 6 feet to sleep. You have 24 rooms in a mansion. There's still just one room with one bed that you need to lay down. We don't need so much. Like I was saying yesterday, I heard Vaisheshika in his class saying that you look at the animals and it's like kind of cool. They just, they don't have to need a house. They're just all outside. And, it's like, well, where are you going to stay tonight? I'll just sleep under that tree over there. I have a little nest over there. What are you going to eat? I'll find something. I'll just look around. There's things here. Whatever their particular food stuff is. They don't have to make such elaborate attempts working like acids. And I saw, just like Prabhupada says, I was sitting in a rickshaw on my way to Lloyd Bazaar near the Fogel Ashram, and I saw this. There was this one man had several donkeys, asses, and they had huge piles of sticks on their backs. Like here's the back, and then this much and this much on their sides. The bundle's like that wide, and it's very high. And then another one just had a bundle of rags. And then, so it was at the end of the day, we were stuck, and he's taking off this bundle, and immediately the ass starts kicking up his heels, running. He's so happy. And then he runs behind the she. I actually saw this. He ran behind the she-ass, and she kicked him right in the face. And he ran right back. Yeah, she likes me. You see how she kicked me? Like Prabhupada said, everybody else who goes through your pockets and takes your money is a pickpocket, is a thief. But if your wife goes through your pockets and takes your money at night, see how much she likes me, she loves me, she takes my money, yeah. This is it's all about attitude. So, we have so much information, thanks to the mercy, and this is another thing that's mentioned in this purport, that we should use all our intelligence, logic, and our senses that we have in this human form to understand the mercy of Lord Chaitanya by reading the Krishnadas Kaviraja's Chaitanya Charitamrita. We should fully understand with our intelligence how fortunate Lord Chaitanya is, how fortunate we are to have been born just 500 years after Lord Chaitanya started his Sankirtan movement, and that Srila Prabhupada has come to initiate it all over the world. Otherwise, we would have no hope. There were so many generations. There was Thoreau and Emerson. These were like American transcendentalists, they were called. They had no knowledge. They knew about the Vedas and Bhagavad Gita, but they had no understanding of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. We are so fortunate, and the more we understand that, the more we'll want to utilize our time fully in hearing and chanting, and then giving everyone an opportunity to hear and chant the holy name, pastimes, and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're amazing. They're incredible. Much more exciting and fulfilling than hearing about some superhero that they make up. So anyway, I'd like to open it up now to anything anyone else would like to add or yes.
I don't know whether it's just me or there is a new thing going around. I've been hearing the customers come and tell me. It's the first time I've been hearing this. There is a propaganda, a group, I don't know, saying that Jesus never existed.
Oh, I've heard that before.
And they explained to me in detail why. And one of them used the example of Krishna, They said they just picked that, they even followed some things like what, they believed Krishna was there. They said, well, Krishna was born in a certain place, so they took this character and made it sound like he was born in a certain place. And like the fruit you just said, they heard about that, and then they said Jesus did that. And they gave some really detailed explanation, some of them.
Are these Americans or Indians?
Yeah, these are American. And
well,
I was like, shocked.
Prabhupada never said, Prabhupada was always he said, he never said anything to that. He said that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Jesus Christ is the Shaktavesa Avatar. Jesus Christ is our Guru. Just like Jesus Christ said. Prabhupada would quote Jesus Christ. Yes.
Yeah, we accept that Jesus is real, but the stories that collected around him appear sometimes, I've heard this too, appear sometimes to have been adapted from Krishna stories.
That's what this
Yeah.
is Western.
But not his existence and teaching, but they added maybe.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have a parampara. They don't have a pure disciplic succession. So there's a lot of things that we should not hear that is from India that we in terms of Krishna's understanding the Rasa Leela about Krishna and so on, it has to be heard from a pure source. So there may be some exaggeration stories or some nonsense stories about Jesus Christ, but Jesus Christ is real.
That's what I said. That's exactly what I said.
He was my first guru.
He's all our gurus. Yes.
There are some that say Jesus is a mushroom.
That theory went around too.
And these are theories and stuff. Yeah, he's a mushroom, psilocybin type mushroom that's hallucinatory. But there's some.
There's so many offensive
They
things
say it's built.
about Krishna
They say
as
it's
well.
built on the parampara, and for Christians they claim it's built on Peter, the rock. On this rock I built my church.
Yeah.
But anyway, I noticed something in this verse is really amazing. Is that it's a displacement concept. In the impure state of a living being, the various senses are fully engaged in the mundane affairs. If the air is not engaged in the service of the Lord by hearing about Him from the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, certainly the holes of the air will be filled with some rubbish.
Right. And when he uses like snake hole, Prabhupada described how the snake, he doesn't dig the hole. He allows a mouse or a rat to dig a hole. And then while it's sitting in its nice little hole that it dug, the snake imagine it's just sitting there at the back of your little home that you made, and then all of a sudden there's a snake come crawling down. That's how the snake gets its hole.
What does Srila Prabhupada call that concept? Because it was a videotape with him talking on a walk.
Yeah.
And he said, we had this nice park.
Right. And nobody's using it. But we're using it. They built it for us so we can come and walk.
And it's like the snake doesn't build a hole, but he called it, what was the name?
I forget. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I don't remember.
Can I change the subject?
Yes.
When you're talking about how fortunate and how wonderful it is that Prabhupada has given us this Mahamantra, my husband, he put on the computer this wonderful Harriman that was in Stockholm, Sweden, and you could see how the people, even though they didn't know too much about the mantra, but they were attracted and they were dancing. And there's this whole group of ladies, not devotees, they were like dancing around with the devotees and dancing around here, and then I could hear them chanting Hare Krishna. It was like, whoa, this is so wonderful.
Anyone who's been on Harinam, after some time, you'll have some story, some experience. Like, I can remember that while you were saying it, there are a lot of them, but I remember one time when I was in New York, and there were a lot of tourists there, so there was this young couple, and they had a child that was probably, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 or something. And in those days, there was this devotee, Jai Satchinandan. He would do these really fancy kind of Bengali dances, and almost like a combination of what do you call it? A jig, and and also Bengali style dancing. And the little boy, he just started doing it. And the parents are like, and they wanted to go, and he's going, no. And he's dancing with us, just like us. And he's chanting. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. There was one boy in Atlanta, his name was Mickey, and he made his parents, he saw the devotees chanting on Peachtree Street, and then he made them stop. His parents were driving by. He got out of the car and immediately ran over and started chanting with the devotees. When Prabhupada saw him in New Vrindavan one year, I think it was in 1972, And he was fanning Prabhupada. Prabhupada looked at him and said, I remember you from the past.
Thank you.
From the past.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How old was he when you were at?
Well, anyway, this was not the one from Europe, but the one in Atlanta. He was at the time, started maybe like 8 or 9.
He was 8 or 9, took parents to stop, got out, and stuff.
Yeah. And he would come every weekend. When he grew up, though, he kind of became like a biker, But that was his. And there are some people though that joined like that. That I had in Atlanta Temple. There was a Vedanta Sutra. He's lives in Alachua, and his father was an English professor in the University of Tennessee. And when Vedanta Sutra was like 14 or 15 years old, he ordered the Chaitanya Charitamrita through the BBT. He read the entire thing. He was up in his room, just chanting loudly, and his parents didn't know what to do with it. So finally, they just drove to Atlanta, and the father said, "Here, I don't know what to do with him, but I think you people will understand what he's doing." And he just said, "I want you to take care of my son."
How old was he?
He was about 15 at that time.
Whoa.
There was a couple of boys like that. One was Garvard Upside Vishnu. There's a couple.
What happened to that? Do you know?
No, I don't know. I don't remember. He was up in Maran for a while too, probably when you were there.
He was there when I was there.
Yeah. He was a nice devotee. There was 3, and then Dina Shraya. I know he's still floating around. Vedanta Sutras in Alachua are doing very nicely. Dina Shraya, he was like 15, 16 when he joined. They all joined around the same time, and their parents gave them permission. They signed them over. They gave me guardianship. These things, they're picking up from past lives.
Mm-hmm.
But so there's so many different things. Other things that with this purport and verse that could be discussed. But I just felt like since Prabhupada is talking about Urukrama, the marvelous, brave activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this is the thing that we sometimes we take for granted. And this. That I'm sure many of you who have been preaching, you've heard people say, well, why didn't Jesus say the name of God? What if he knew? But the Jews, the rabbi, because the only one who's supposed to say it. If he was already preaching, something that against their doing, that where they were selling things for the sacrifices, and he kicked them all out of the temple. And then also, he was saying, my Father's kingdom is great and vast. The Romans thought he was like a political revolutionary. He was trying to because there were lots of them at the time. But he's talking about the kingdom of God. And the Pharisees were misusing the scriptures. And he he had enemies, powerful enemies on both sides. Because the point is that we come, like the Roman Empire, where is it now? We come here, we don't own anything. Now, I may have owned a huge mansion in my past life. It ain't mine now. I come here, then I work really hard, and I finally get myself a little cottage, and then I die. And that's it. It isn't mine anymore. The land will be here. The land was here before I got here. And the land will stay here after I leave. We are all just stewards or just travelers, traveling through. And this, and so this was Jesus Christ's preaching, very bold preaching. But here we're getting a chance to hear all the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're so vast. How did he get those 16,000 wives? That was a huge battle between Bhamasura. And Bhamasura had a great protection. There was another demon, a 5-headed demon called Mora. That's where the name Murari came, because he killed the Mora demon that was protecting Bhamasura's palace. Bhamasura kidnapped 16,000 princesses. And Krishna and Satyabhama took them out. I mean, this is fantastic stories. And so it's not... God is great. How great thou art. Yes, that's true. And it's a pious thing to do. But when you can actually know how great he is, Yes, I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
think that's what helped me come to Christian consciousness is trying to read the Bible and growing up as a Christian and wanting to know more.
Yeah.
Just not wanting to go beyond what they were like. Who is he?
Who? Yeah,
What is
exactly.
his name?
Yeah.
And that's something I stayed with me from a small child, and eventually Krishna gave me that opportunity
If-
to know who he was.
I remember, I think it was a stained glass window in one of the churches. There was 3 churches in our town: Miraculous Medal, Sacred Heart, and St. Anthony's. And then they had a school, and sometimes they used one of the auditoriums for overflow, other masses. And I remember they had stained glass windows, and there was one stained glass window where you see Jesus Christ, and then you see the Holy Ghost or the Holy Spirit, which is like a dove, but it's like a shining jivatma or something. And then you see the Father, and he's sitting on a throne. He has white hair, a white beard with robes, and he has no face, just light.
Yeah, it's interesting, like Mother Angelica, who, has this Catholic station going around the whole world.
Right.
And surprisingly, she said, someone said, do you believe God has, like long gray hair? And she said, no.
I think, wasn't it that you think he's old? And
No,
he's the
an old
oldest.
man.
He's the
And she
oldest.
said, no,
Why, if God can do anything, why would he choose to be old? He's the oldest, but he's young.
It was shocking to hear it.
Did you have
She's so
something else?
hardcore.
So I remember going through the Bible and just trying to figure it out, and I just couldn't.
Yeah,
I think it says that Krishna, when he sees that you're interested and sees that you really want to know the truth, just sends someone to help.
that's right. Super Soul, when you're ready, Super Soul directs you towards what you need and what you're looking for. So that's why sometimes you get directed towards cheaters. Yes?
And there was an incident in the Bible where somebody said to Lord Jesus, "You're so good." And he said, "Why do you call me good? Only God is good." So it's like very subtle, and it is appointed that man should die once. That means be thou therefore perfect as your heavenly Father. It means get, like Prabhu said, get your business done and get out.
Mm-hmm.
But
The problem is
I
that-
just felt that, it's appointed only once that man should die.
But the problem is what we're getting over the
And
last
after this,
2,000
the
years
judgment.
has been the disciplic succession is had its moments where it's not so, things become clouded or readjusted.
Well,
Did you have something
they
else?
have the council, like councils, Nicaea, and other ones. Their ideas were ascending, whereas Krishna consciousness,
It's
the
decent.
knowledge is descending.
Right.
So they have to have something that everybody agrees on. Okay, that's the rule now. So that's why things can get
Confused.
I find it amazing how Krishna always connects everything. This morning I was looking at the deities and just thinking, how can we give this opportunity? And show who Krishna is. And that's the class to do. So, yeah.
Well, I have to tell you that, literally, you can ask my wife. I listened all day to this one lecture that Prabhupada gave. I must have listened to it 4 or 5 times and wrote down main points. And I had it so that I could probably almost give that class. I could plagiarize it. And then I'm chanting my rounds and meditating on the sound vibration of Prabhupada's lecture. I'm trying to control my mind just hearing the holy name. And all of a sudden this idea came, wait a second, about, Jesus walked on water, but Lord Ramachandra floated boulders and made a bridge. And you can see it from a satellite still to this day. And they want to try to destroy that to put in a harbor. What to speak of the demon, that the Ravana, his enemy, he was so powerful, he built a subway from the southern tip of India, or Sri Lanka, all the way across to Brazil. And you know, it dawned on me, what was very interesting, in this lecture, Prabhupada said that he built a subway all the way to, he says Brazil, but then he also says Africa. Now there is some people that say that the land masses have separated. I don't know if that's true or not. But even still, how do you build a subway from Ceylon to Brazil? You have to go under Africa?
Right.
I mean, we can't, you know, building a subway just from one city to another is a major, you know, endeavor. I mean, there's subways in New York, but it's not a subway from New York to Philadelphia. There's a train, but not underground. What to speak of underwater? And I remember very clearly in the late 50s or early 60s, and there was in the Sunday paper, there was a magazine called Parade magazine or something. And there was an article with pictures showing people sitting very nicely and comfortably in these glass subway that was going under the water to London. And you could see all the fish, and they're all sitting there having their cups of coffee and, you know, having little snacks. And well, they have a tunnel. The tunnel, yeah, that's the tunnel, yeah.
Yeah, across the English Channel, right?
Yeah.
It does exist. Yeah.
But Ravana was able to do that, and that's the kind of power that this materialist had. But Ramchandra took care of it. You know, no problem. He took care of that, and he didn't even need his soldiers, his army that he had in Ayodhya. He got an army of monkeys and bears.
I always had trouble too believing that this is the most intelligent beings that had ever been. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, there was a song once that it came out in the late '60s. I think it was a Jefferson Airplane. It said, "We are the crown of creation." Yeah, I mean,
I couldn't buy it. I was like, no, it's got to be better than this.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it's just, this cannot be it.
Well, that's their aspiring to they're you know, saying that Darwin's theory of evolution is, and at this moment we're as advanced as society has ever been.
Yeah, I couldn't buy it.
No, I'm not buying that one. No.
I had too many questions.
Well, just read. They had, I mean, in the Krishna book, they talk about Salva's Vimana, his flying machine. I mean, in Kardama Muni, he provided Devahuti, his wife, with a flying city. Basically, it had parks, lakes.
It's a beautiful pastime.
Yeah. Yes.
That English Channel Euro Tunnel is 31 miles.
31 miles?
Yeah.
So, but they, and you know, when Prabhupada was talking about this in 1972, I don't know if they had found all the gold that they have now found in Brazil. Like first of all, there was a huge cave that had just huge quantities of gold. And then they discovered that going through the Amazon, the entire breadth, the width of the Amazon, and it's about 1 or 2 miles across this way, and going that way across the Amazon is basically a highway of gold. And they've just begun to mine it, and they found it sometime in the 70s. It's what it is, and that's a way of expression. It's not like it was, but it's a vein. It's like a highway straight through.
A vein.
Yeah. So anyway, Super Soul. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.